So my goal for this time was to give the character a gun and have it shoot. I started this devlog feeling confident, but I just ended up having a load of issues which took a lot of time for me to figure out and fix. I decided to organise my folders and files before going any further, in the hopes of keeping everything tidy. The result, I lost the starter map. This forced me to learn how to create a new map. After some research and YouTubing, I learned how to use the grid-based level creator. It's nice that I found this now. It would have helped quite a lot with my Crash Bandicoot videos, but never mind. After that, everything seemed fine, so I finished for the day. I made my own little playground level. Everything had its own purpose in my mind. So I had like tunnels just to see what the camera would do. Different varying heights of jumps. And then you've got the jumps have nothing where the legs are, so maybe I can have like, the legs dangling. And different ranges of slopes. I wanted to fix the feet sliding issue I had. It was an easy enough fix to sort. The feet would detach, and that was because the feet weren't parented to the legs. So it was just a case of going back into Blender and fiddling around, getting it all attached again. I had to delete the character from Unreal and re-import it again, as every time I tried to just re-import it, it would give me an error. Something like bones couldn't be merged, so I discovered you can re-import without any issues if you're adding bones. You can't seem to alter what was already there. I believe this is what also caused my whole character to become missing. It's just a random clip. I also had to re-import all the animations, as there was no animation data for the new feet bones. But that was easy enough, just going back into Blender and just re-exporting and importing it. So I fixed the feet, but then I broke the scaling of the character. I think I temporarily fixed it, messing with the animation scale when re-importing them back in. But then, because I messed with the scale of everything, my jumping system also needed altering, temporarily fixed by adjusting the figures in the nodes. I got everything back to a somewhat working state, so I decided to press on with the main goal. I posed the character to pretend as though they were holding a gun, and then I just went for it. I want to be able to have customizable parts, so I thought if I can get things looking generic in what it looks like and how it's placed, it might be easy to swap it out. For some reason, I decided to leave the rifle and make a pistol instead. Same sort of deal, I posed the character and then kind of made it around him. For what it is, it took me way too long to make these things. I've pretty much spent all my time on making the actual character. I've not actually really deviated away from organic models before. But it's all a good learning experience, I think. Importing the gun, my scaling issues seemed to return and the gun didn't want to follow the character. From before, I knew I just had to re-import the animations again to fix the gun not following the character issue. But after importing it, I was getting the error that the bones were too small to create the physics object of the gun. So at this point I decided just to fix the scale issues once and for all. I imported the default mannequin into Blender from Unreal. The character is called Quinn, I think. I compared Quinn to mine, and it didn't look that far off to begin with until you delete Quinn's armature, and she returned to her true size. It was roughly 100 times bigger than mine. I scaled it down to be the same, then scaled it up by 100. But that wasn't all. In the Blender settings itself, I also had to change the units from 1 to 0.01. There's also an option to change meters to centimeters, and the most important part, which I seem to keep missing, and I think other people might do the same, it's to make sure I actually apply the scale. Changing the meters to centimeters might only change the units of measurement in Blender itself though. I think I imported it twice, one without changing the meters to centimeters and one with, and it didn't seem to make a difference. So it might just be the numbers 1 to 0.01. Looking at the units after though, my character is about 181 centimeters, which feels kind of realistic in the first place. So I think with the mindset of realistic measurements, it might come out nicely in Unreal. Re-importing it back into Unreal, my scaling issues were fixed. But as with any fix, something else seems to break, so all my animations were now broken, and it wasn't even a case of just going back into Blender and just re-importing them. They were all broken because I scaled the armature up. I spent so long trying to search Google for a fix to my problems, but there was nothing. The problem is that only the rotations of the bones scaled up, but not the locations. I learned that you can use delta transforms to mess with the scaling and fix it, but it did not carry across to exports, so the issue still remained. It would have been fine if it stayed in Blender, but it wasn't, it was getting exported. At this point it seemed as though I could either remake all the animations again, or try to fix each one. In the end I opted to try and fix it by messing with the animation graph of each animation, focusing on the locations of the IK bones and the waist. After an hour and a half it was fixed for the most part. That's not including the time wasted trying to find the fix. It wasn't perfect, but I told myself I would be changing the animations anyway. And yeah, the jump was still messed up at this point, because I just didn't go back to fix it. So the aim offset, I followed a tutorial for the aim offset, but I just had nothing but issues, which I had to then try and figure out for myself. For example, the gun was not in his hand. I eventually fixed it, or so I thought. It would be in the general area of the hand, but it wasn't following it properly. It would look up and down, but not side to side. A tick box later, and the body was able to move side to side, but it moved far too fast, too quick, and the gun was still doing its own thing. I tried to do more research. I kept looking for more tutorials, but they were all pretty much the same thing. It was only until I examined the skeleton that I noticed that the bones in the hand was floating. It was the same issue I had with the feet, so where the things weren't parented properly. So back to Blender, parented the gun to the hand, and it was sorted it. Why didn't I parent it to begin with? Because I tried to think ahead in terms of animations, and I thought I could do more with it being unparented. So like I could do like a showing off sort of reload animation, or throwing the gun side to side or something. But I think at this point I'm just trying to run before I can walk. So the aim offset was done, but the jump was still broken. So fixing the jump, I fixed the rest of the animations, but figured it would be quicker just to recreate the jumping itself. I still hadn't quite got a jump that I'd liked yet, so this was attempt number 6, although I still saved it as 5. Don't know why. I created the UnEquip animation first. I remember getting to this bit and stopping for a while, feeling stumped on where the holster should be, how many holsters, how they should pull it out. It'd be quite cool if they had different options for maybe like where to place things and how to do it. I created a bone for the holster for reference, and I already learned that adding bones don't tend to mess up my skeleton at this point, so it should come through alright. The equip gun animation was just a copy of the unequip animation, but just in reverse and with some tweaking. After looking at it for a while, I decided to speed it up after. But once in the game, I figured it was still taking too long. It needed to be quicker. I had another pause while I slept on how to create the logic around pulling out the weapon, putting it away. I had a general idea of how I could do it, but I didn't want to keep having to rely on tutorials, so I tried to do this one on my own. I just messed around with the visibility in certain states. You can see here that the first issue I had was body snapping, so when he puts his weapon away, it would snap back to like the idle running animations. So I used the timeline in the character blueprint to try and smooth it out. The aim offset was sorted in the end, so I can now pull out and put the gun away. I especially liked it when he equips the gun while looking straight up or down, because it smoothly goes into that action. Finally, I needed to add the firing into it. I went with the projectile to begin with. I can't see the line trace being all that much different. The first time I fired a projectile, it dragged the player off the map, and if I held the button down, it eventually took me back up to the platform, which I thought was quite funny. The mess of guns everywhere was me struggling to attach the gun to the socket. I learned, after messing around again, where to place the object in Blender in regards to its origin point. I got it to work in the end, but that usually just means I've broken something else somewhere. My quick attempt to do a line trace on my own resulted in it just constantly pointing in one direction. I was hoping to tackle it without having to use a tutorial, but I might just have to have a quick peek at one when I need it. I eventually managed to get the projectile to shoot out of the gun, but the problem I had was that it would not actually follow the gun, so when I looked up and down it would just keep shooting dead straight from the character. I fixed that by creating a socket at the end of the gun instead of using the one by its hand. And that's it. I added a camera zoom, moved it slightly to the side. It needs more work, but it's progress. Considering all I wanted to do was add shooting for the character, I felt like I did a lot of problem solving and issue fixing. It didn't help that whenever I fixed something else would break. I think I'm at the point now where things should be a little easier next time. Next, I wanted to go back into Blender and see if I can create an actual character, or a head at least. I feel as though people might be more interested if what they were watching looked a bit more official or pretty. I'm also hoping that if I had a character, then I can focus the animations around the art style a little bit more. At the moment, I just feel like everything needs to be quicker. Hey, if you made it to the end of the video, then thank you for watching. If you're enjoying what you see, please consider subscribing to stay in the loop with my progress. I really do appreciate it. Thank you.